My name is Ryan Carter. I'm 27, a copywriter at a boutique marketing agency in Portland that smells like espresso and deadlines. My life looks neatly stacked from the outside. Successful job, downtown apartment, the occasional hiking trip on weekends, but inside it feels like one of those houses you drive past at night with every light on, but nobody home. This is the story I've never told anyone. I call it, She Said I Am Scared. Will you stay with me? I first met Emily Lawson at a client pitch 2 years ago. She worked for a big tech company whose ads we were trying to win. She was in her late 20s, smart and self-contained, with this understated style, black dress, small silver earrings, no obvious makeup. She spoke softly but directly, like each word had been considered. I was supposed to be listening to her talk about the campaign objectives, but my mind kept snagging on the way she tucked her hair behind her ear when she paused. After the pitch, while everyone else clustered around the free pastries, she came up to me. "You're the only one who didn't use the word synergy," she said, half smiling. "I appreciate that. Trying to stay human," I replied, and she laughed. It was a small laugh, but it felt like a window opening. For weeks afterward, our emails were about strictly professional things. Brand tone, deadlines, legal reviews, but there were tiny cracks of warmth. A gif she sent of a raccoon typing furiously. A single sentence at the end of one message. "You must live on coffee, like me." We started grabbing coffee after meetings. At first it was just to brainstorm campaign angles. Then it was just because we were both too tired to face our offices yet. Then it wasn't about work at all. She told me about her mother's illness back in Vermont, how she'd been flying back and forth on weekends. I told her about my father, a police officer who died when I was 14, and how my family still didn't talk about it. Something in her eyes softened when I spoke about him. "Grief is like moving into a new house without unpacking," she said once. "You keep walking around boxes for years." I remember thinking, she understands the rooms I never show anyone. But there was a boundary always. She had a boyfriend, Matt, whom she rarely mentioned. All I knew was that he worked in finance and traveled constantly. Whenever she slipped and said his name, her voice went flat, like she was reading a weather report. One rainy Thursday evening, she came to my apartment. I had just finished a brutal day of revisions, my desk scattered with crumpled notes. She texted, "Can we talk?" And I'd sent back my address before I'd even thought about it. When I opened the door, she looked different. No coat despite the rain, hair damp and sticking to her cheeks, eyes red. She stepped inside without waiting for me to say anything. "Ryan," she said, her voice breaking, "I am scared. Will you stay with me?" The words hit me like a door slamming shut. I could smell her shampoo mixed with rainwater. My apartment suddenly felt too small for both of us. "What happened?" I asked. She sank onto my couch, hugging herself. "It's Matt. He's not who I thought. He's been following me, checking my phone. He knew I had a meeting with you today and he showed up at the lobby, just stood there staring. I don't know how much he knows." My stomach dropped. All the playful, just coffee moments flashed through my mind like evidence in a courtroom. "Emily?" I said slowly, "Has he hurt you?" "No, not yet. But he says things like, 'If you embarrass me, you'll regret it.' He's got this calm voice when he says it, like it's already decided." I sat down next to her. The city outside my window blurred into streaks of light. Part of me was furious. How could someone make her feel this way? And part of me was terrified of what my own role had been in igniting it. "You're safe here," I said. "We'll figure this out." She looked at me then, eyes wide and wet. "I shouldn't be here. It's making it worse." But I didn't know where else to go. We stayed up most of the night. I made tea neither of us drank. She told me about the small red flags she'd ignored. His temper when she laughed at a text. His insistence on picking her up from work even when it wasn't convenient. I told her she didn't have to go back, that there were hotlines, shelters, HR departments. She shook her head at each suggestion like she was underwater and couldn't hear me. Around 3 a.m., she fell asleep sitting upright on the couch. I pulled a blanket over her and sat across from her, listening to the rain tapping the window. My phone buzzed once. an unknown number, and then stopped. I didn't check it. Morning came pale and gray. She woke, blinked around my living room like she didn't recognize it, and said softly, "I have to go." "You don't," I said. "You can stay. We'll call someone." "I can't. If I'm not home, he'll know. He'll think?" She trailed off, then stood, smoothing her dress as if armor could be made from fabric. "Thank you for last night." I walked her to the door. She hesitated, then touched my hand. "Ryan, please, don't tell anyone." "I won't," I said, and in that moment, I made a promise I wasn't sure I could keep. The next week at work was a study in acting. She came to meetings composed, her hair perfectly pinned, her notes immaculate. But her eyes darted to the door whenever it opened. I sent her one text, "Are you okay?" She didn't reply. Then one Friday afternoon, HR called me in. They'd received an anonymous tip about inappropriate closeness between me and a client rep. They reminded me of the company policy about fraternization. As they spoke, I realized Matt must have been watching us even at the office, documenting every coffee break, every shared cab. That night, Emily called me from a number I didn't recognize. "I'm at the airport," she whispered. "I'm flying to Vermont. My mom's gotten worse. Don't try to contact me. Okay? Emily?" I started, but the line went dead. Days blurred into weeks. I told myself she was safe with her family. I threw myself into work, into running, into anything that would silence the echo of her voice saying I am scared. Then, one Tuesday evening, I came home to find an envelope slipped under my door. No return address. Inside was a single Polaroid. Emily, sitting on my couch the night she came over, her eyes half closed, my blanket around her shoulders. The photo was taken from outside the window. On the back, in neat block letters, "You should have stayed out of it." I sat on the floor, the Polaroid trembling in my hands. My apartment, once my sanctuary, now felt like a stage. Every shadow looked like an audience. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about her, about the promise I'd made, about how love and fear had twisted together until I couldn't tell them apart. I kept hearing her voice. "Will you stay with me?" The morning after the Polaroid arrived, I called Emily, straight to voicemail. I tried her work line, disconnected. Her LinkedIn profile vanished the same day. It was as if she'd been erased. I sat at my desk staring at the photo, my pulse hammering. Whoever took it had been outside my window. How long had they been there? Had they followed me too? I thought of Matt's calm voice, his traveling job, his resources. I made a copy of the Polaroid and slid it into my desk drawer, locking it. Then I called my older sister, Claire, a lawyer in Seattle. "You need to go to the police," she said. "I can't," I whispered. "It's just a photo. They'll say I'm overreacting." "Ryan, stalking is a crime." She asked me not to tell anyone. "You're already in the middle of it," she said. "You have to protect yourself." I hung up feeling both chastised and more alone than ever. That night, on my way up to my apartment, I noticed the hallway light flicker. My door was slightly ajar. I stepped inside, heart pounding. Everything looked normal until I reached my living room. The blanket I'd covered Emily with that night was folded neatly on the couch. A single lily laid on top. I sat down slowly. The apartment was silent except for my own breath. A text buzzed. "Meet me at the old waterfront pier tonight at 10. Come alone." No name. I hesitated. Could be a trap. But what if it was Emily? At 9:45 p.m., rain misting down, I walked to the pier. The river lapped darkly below. The planks creaked under my shoes. She emerged from the shadows. Emily, hood up, eyes darting. She looked thinner, paler. "Ryan," she whispered. "I shouldn't have come, but I had to warn you." "What's going on?" I asked. She glanced over her shoulder. "Matt found out about us, about everything. He's been watching you. He took that photo. He says you ruined his life. I don't know what he's planning." My fists clenched. "We have to go to the police. Together." Her eyes filled with tears. I tried. "He has friends, connections. Every time I get close to leaving, Something happens. My bank account frozen, my mom's medication delayed. He's everywhere. I stepped closer, lowering my voice. Emily, you're not alone anymore. I'm here. She flinched at the word here, as if the concept of safety was foreign. You don't understand. If he can't control me, he'll destroy you. Then let him try, I said, more fiercely than I'd intended. I'd rather fight than hide. For a heartbeat, something like hope flickered in her eyes. Then she shoved a small flash drive into my hand. This has proof, emails, recordings. Keep it safe. If anything happens to me, give it to the police. Before I could speak, she stepped back into the darkness. Don't follow me, she said. Please. And she disappeared into the rain. The next days were a blur of paranoia. I backed up the flash drive, hid the original under a floorboard. I started noticing cars idling too long outside my building. A man in a baseball cap on the corner who turned away when I looked. I showed the flash drive to Claire. This is enough, she said grimly. We can take this to a federal investigator. But before we could act, something happened. I came home from work one night to find my apartment door kicked in. Drawers pulled open, papers scattered. The floorboard was pried up, the flash drive gone. On the kitchen counter sat another Polaroid. Emily at the pier, my hand reaching for hers. On the back, you were warned. That night I didn't sleep. Around 3 a.m., my phone buzzed with a blocked number. I answered. Ryan. Her voice hoarse, panicked. He knows. He's taking me to the cabin. Highway 26, mile marker 47. Please. The line went dead. I grabbed my car keys, heart hammering. Claire tried to stop me over the phone, but I couldn't sit still. I drove out of the city, headlights slicing through mist, trees looming like dark witnesses. At mile marker 47, there was a narrow dirt road. I turned down it. The forest closed in. Up ahead, a cabin glowed faintly. I parked, killed the lights, crept closer. Through the window I saw her. Emily, tied to a chair, Matt pacing in front of her. He was taller than I expected, clean-cut, wearing a crisp shirt like he'd just left a boardroom. You humiliated me, he was saying. You and your little boyfriend. Do you know what I've done for you? You're nothing without me. I could barely breathe. I had no weapon, no plan. Only the certainty that if I left now, she might not survive. I circled to the back door, found it unlocked. Inside, the air smelled of wood smoke and something acrid. Matt's back was to me. I picked up a heavy iron poker from the fireplace. My hands shook. Let her go, I said, my voice low. He turned slowly, eyes cold. Ah, the copywriter hero. Now, I said. He smiled. You have no idea what you've stepped into. Walk away, and maybe I'll let you both live. Emily met my eyes, silently pleading. I raised the poker. Last chance. He lunged at me. We crashed into the table, papers flying. The poker clanged away. His fist connected with my jaw. Pain exploded. I swung back, catching him off balance. Emily tipped her chair, breaking it against the floor. Run, I shouted. She scrambled to the door. Matt roared, grabbing my collar. We struggled, slipping on the wood floor. I managed to shove him into the fireplace grate. He fell, stunned. I grabbed Emily's hand and we bolted out into the rain, down the dirt road to my car. We dove in and I floored it. In the rearview mirror, Matt stumbled out of the cabin, shouting something lost in the wind. We drove in silence, both of us trembling. Finally, Emily said, I'm so sorry. You don't apologize for being trapped, I said. She closed her eyes, tears mixing with rain on her cheeks. We went straight to Claire's office. With her help and the duplicate copy I'd hidden online, we handed everything to the authorities. Federal agents took over. Matt was arrested 2 days later. They found illegal surveillance equipment, forged documents, financial crimes. He'd been using Emily's identity to launder money. That's why he couldn't let her go. Weeks passed. Emily stayed with her mother in Vermont. I kept working, going through the motions, my apartment still smelling faintly of the lily he'd left. One morning she called me. "Ryan," she said softly, "I wanted to thank you for everything." "You don't have to," I said. "I do. I'm starting over. Therapy, new job. I don't know if I'm ready for anything else yet." "I understand." There was a pause. "Maybe someday," she said, "when the boxes are unpacked." After we hung up, I sat by the window. Outside, the city was waking. Coffee carts clattering, buses hissing. I thought about love and fear, how easily they can be woven together, how hard it is to pull them apart without tearing yourself open. Emily had once said grief is like moving into a new house without unpacking. Maybe healing is finally opening the boxes, one by one, no matter how heavy. I looked at the Polaroids one last time before handing them to the police. Then I threw the lily out, opened the window, and let the cold air in. If there's a lesson in all of this, it's that real love isn't about rescuing someone or being rescued. It's about standing beside them in the dark without pretending the dark isn't there. It's about listening when they whisper, "I am scared," and answering. Not with promises you can't keep, but with presence, honesty, and courage. A year later, the city feels different. I still work at the same agency, still write headlines and taglines, but my desk now faces the window. I like watching the street below as the seasons change. The cherry blossoms in spring, the yellow leaves spiraling in October. It reminds me that time keeps moving, even when you feel stuck. Matt took a plea deal. He's serving a sentence for fraud and unlawful surveillance. Every now and then I get a form letter from a prosecutor's office updating me on the case. I file them away without reading. I've been seeing a therapist. At first, I went because Claire told me I needed to. But somewhere along the way I realized I wanted to understand why I'd let myself slip so far into Emily's shadow. Why I thought saving someone was the same as loving them. Healing isn't glamorous. It's showing up to your own life every day, even when it's dull or painful. One rainy Thursday, a day so much like the one when Emily first knocked on my door, I get a letter postmarked from Vermont. No return address. Inside is a small photograph. Emily standing on a wooden porch, holding a mug of tea. She looks different. Her hair longer, face softer, eyes steady. On the back, in her handwriting, "I've unpacked a few boxes. Thank you for staying with me that night. Saved my life." I hold the photo for a long time. There's no phone number, no invitation, just a marker of survival. That night, I walk down to the waterfront. The pier where she handed me the flash drive has been renovated. New planks, brighter lights, a food cart selling fish tacos. People laugh, couples lean into each other. I stand at the edge and let the wind press against my face. It smells of salt and diesel and rain. I think of Emily's words, "If I'm not home, he'll know." And my own, "You don't apologize for being trapped." We were two people circling each other inside our separate cages, trying to find a door. I don't know if I'll ever see her again. I don't know if she's met someone new, if she's happy, if she still drinks too much coffee. What I do know is that we're both alive, both still moving. And that's enough. My phone buzzes. It's Claire. "Dinner?" She texts. "Your place or mine?" I smile and text back, "Yours." Feels good to have ordinary plans. As I head home, I realize the lesson I've been carrying. Love can begin in crisis, but it can't stay there. Real connection isn't forged by secrecy or danger. It's built slowly, with honesty, on safe ground. Sometimes you get to build that with the person who first held your hand. Sometimes you build it later with someone new. But either way, you start by building it with yourself. I slip Emily's photograph into my wallet. Not as a talisman, not as a wound, but as a reminder. When someone whispers, "I am scared," the most powerful thing you can offer isn't a promise to fix everything. It's the steady truth of your presence and the courage to walk into the light, even if it means walking alone. I step into the street, the city glowing around me, and feel the quiet, steady beat of my own heart. For the first time in a long while, it feels like home. We can't always save the people we love, but we can bear witness to their pain, stand with them while they find their own way out, and make sure we don't lose ourselves in the process. Sometimes that's the most faithful kind of love there is,